Greetings all! This is Justin.
And this is Nick. We are back in the Hangar Bay. Indeed, back to the Scum faction. We are going to talk about some mad jank this week, the YV666. And I say mad jank with a little asterisk because it might be a little bit unfair. We're still very much in the Wild West when it comes to the early meta with X-Wing 2nd Edition. We know that Imperial Alpha Strikes are just rocking everything right now. We know Boba Fett's good in the Scum faction. We know that some Rebel stuff is viable. Luke and Wedge and that kind of thing seems to be viable. Yeah. But when we're talking about the more sort of janky, synergy type builds, it takes a little bit longer for people to adopt them. So I'm not going to say the stuff we're talking about today is absolute jank, but I'm pretty confident it is. I think it's a pretty safe bet to make. Yeah. The YV666 is a unique platform because it can take 3 crew slots.
Also, the ship is a lot smaller than what it should be. It's meant to be like a 3-story building.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Cool.
The Millennium Falcon can actually park in it.
Oh, really? That's kind of cool. They're a bit loose with some of the scales in X-Wing. I know the TIE Silencer is a bit bigger than it should be, I think. We're hoping that they're going to re-release it at the right scale, that kind of stuff. Yeah. But the YV, I think, because it sort of functions like a big ship quite well, it doesn't seem to be wrong. No. If that makes any sense. It came out in first edition when there were already epic ships, and FFG decided not to make it an epic ship. Yeah. Which is cool. The idea that it has a little Z95 that can pop out the back when it explodes on emergencies.
That's really fun.
I like the design moving forward, how they've given us the Houndstooth, and you have the choice of taking the Nashta Pup or any other Z95 in it. Yeah. Indeed, one of these lists that we're going to have a look at utilises that, but very few I've had submitted actually use the Nashta Pup. I think that's probably a wise move in general. Something that only works when you're specifically losing a game isn't always the best kind of way to build out a list.
Yeah, but it's, 7 points?
It's 1 point for the title, 6 points for the Nashta Pup. Yeah. So yeah, I know what you mean. And I guess with redundancy, if it's already kind of cheap and you have a kamikaze type of build, that's something to think about.
I suppose it's hard to justify still 7 points in a game.
It's hard to justify any amount of points on something that is only working when you're losing a game. Yeah. That's how it is. What people are most hyped for are the pilot abilities, namely Latz, Razzie, and Bosk, but most notably Moralo Ival.
Yes.
A complete design overhaul from first edition. He now flies off the board, goes into reserves, and then redeploys the next turn on the same edge, which is exciting. I don't know if it's good. Whenever I look at new effects in X-Wing, I always try to quantify, is this good? How do we relate this to other effects? It's like, like Jam is kind of like Ion or Stress, but a different kind. There is nothing like Moralo's ability in the game.
No.
It's maybe like it's similar to docking, because you can put a ship off the table and back on, but but an entire board edge flying off, like something that makes you not lose a ship from flying it off the board. That is completely unheard of. And it's gotten the creative juices flowing in a lot of you guys.
It would have saved me a lot of games in version 1.
Yes, as a new player, we all fly our ships off the board. Justin's first tournament, he actually got paired up against me in the final round and he flew a Decimator off the board. Was not a proud moment for you, but it is a very important learning moment for you. Yeah. You now know to hold the dial next to the ship whenever you're selecting it. Actually, just over the last week, and I was at PAC teaching X-Wing, that was one of the first things I taught new players.
That's a good way to learn.
Yeah. It's important to know that, yes, we all fly ships the wrong direction when we start out. I did it. Basically, everyone I know did it. You just hold the dial next to it. But anyway, that's another conversation. With Moralo, you want to fly him off the board.
Well, only twice.
Only twice, that's correct. You don't want to accidentally do it 3 times.
Yeah.
That would be a comedy of errors, I must say. Anyway, without further ado, let's talk about these lists, and we'll talk more about the stats of the ship as we go, because the way these lists are built out sort of capitalise on that. First up, we have one list by a patron, Mr. Kevin Wack, with Eval Jank. We have in this list Moralo Eval, Kato Lichos, and Torkel Mux.
So Moralo has Tractor Beam, Homing Missiles, Perceptive Copilot, Chewbacca, L337, munitions failsafe, and Houndstooth.
Kato has proton rockets and Deadman Switch.
And Torkelmux has Cad Bane, proton bombs, contraband cybernetics, and the Moldy Crow title.
Cool. So a lot of things going on here. We've used Moralo, the most hyped pilot that people are talking about at the moment for the YV. And yes, there's nothing really in Moralo's build that makes me go, oh wow, this capitalizes off being able to sort of turn around and do whatever. But that's okay. I don't think you really have to. It's just a good value ability. It doesn't really require much synergizing, theoretically anyway.
I suppose, realistically, it's a good way to use your homing missiles, because...
Yeah, if you get a good shot. I think there are better missiles for that.
Yeah.
Like Concussion Missile. Concussion Missile, for example, is something that's very hard to trigger. When you hit something, that ship... and every ship around it flips a damage card face up. So positioning is the hardest thing with that. So maybe that's something you could think about.
Yeah.
Homing Missile is just something that your opponent can choose to take a damage card to not suffer the effects of, which is not as great, but I guess against an ace, if you're trying to hunt them around the board, it's bizarre to think about the terrible dial on a YV666, but you can redeploy across the entire board during the next turn. That is crazy to think about, isn't it?
Well, you've also got L337 to help with your dial.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if we have a look at the dial, for example, it has 4 white banks, both of them at 2 and speed 3. So if L337 flips, you get green banks at those speeds. After redeploying, that's a fair amount of flexibility in the way it moves. And it's always got those 3 hard whites. That's always been a real cool thing about this ship. First and second edition, always really enjoyed that. Now, in terms of the way we've built out these crew, because this is another key thing about this ship. You have 3 crew slots, you have access to all the unique scum crew. That's kind of the flavour of this ship. It's one of the best things about it.
Back in version 1, it was called the Party Bus.
The Party Bus, the Bounty Bus, anything like that. There was a few different versions of it through the various iterations of cards that got fixed and broke that combination, like Zuckus and Fulham, all that kind of stuff. Not really a thing in second edition. Here we have a Perceptive Co-Pilot and Chewbacca, and this is an interesting combination. So Perceptive Co-Pilot can give Chewbacca more tokens, and that's pretty cool. Chewbacca, I feel, is a pretty niche ability. He sort of pairs well with the Hangar card, who can feed him tokens that way. With Perceptive Co-Pilot, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I think Perceptive Co-Pilot is already pretty good on this platform. You've got a lot of red dice, but only 1 green dice. So the fail case here, and I like to look when we have synergies like this, like what's the fail case? When these things don't synergize, how do they go on their own? And I think Perceptive Co-Pilot is just okay. Chewbacca gives you no value. And I think you have to be very careful when you're synergizing cards like that.
Yeah, the fact that you can only repair face-up damage cards.
Yes. Now, in defense, this is the best platform for it.
Yeah.
We have 9 hull and 3 shields. There is a lot of hull to get face-up damage cards.
Wow.
It used to be 6 and 6, and even with 6 hull, 6 shields, it was a good option for that.
Yeah.
So I like it from that point of view, and I think the reason I don't mind this combination here, I don't like it when any card doesn't perform, but the fact of the matter is we're flying this alongside Kato Lichos, who can also get value out of those focus tokens. That makes me think, okay, you're going to double focus quite a lot, and hopefully between one of those abilities, you're going to get value out of them. If not, 2 focus tokens is still not a bad thing to have on your platform. So
that's true.
That's okay. Like synergy, you got to think of the floor and the ceiling, the worst case scenario, best case scenario. And I think in this case, it's just okay because of the way the rest of the list is built out. L337, we're talking about synergy before. This is just pure value. I love L337. You still get to make those banks blue, and that's fantastic on a large base ship. You need to squeeze out as much maneuverability out of these things as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's a strong move. All right, let's talk about Kato next. Deadman Switch.
Yep. And proton rockets. He's just going to fly straight in.
Do as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
He has the option of deploying sooner or deploying at the start of the game outside the YV666.
Yeah.
There's still value to be had because of Perceptive Co-Pilot, but if you fly him aggressively, he can deploy late, get the focus and fire a proton. Seems pretty good, I guess. Yeah.
I suppose if you want to, like, you could start off in the YV666, work out where they're flying, and then deploy them from there.
That's a good idea, actually, because you don't have to commit too hard. And if you do get outflown by Moralo, well, he can fly off the board and redeploy near your opponent's ships.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea, yeah.
Now, if Moralo does fly off the board, does Kato die?
No, because they go into reserves. If you would flee, you may spend one charge. If you do, place yourself in reserves instead. And because Moralo's in reserves, I would assume that the ship he is also carrying, it's only when you're destroyed. So because you're replacing the destroy effect, no, Kato would be safe in this instance. It wouldn't make any sense in terms of flavour for the carried ship to die either. Look, Dead Man Switch is a card I'm not that hyped for. I just think it relies too much on niche situations and empowers your opponent too much. Cards like that in all kinds of games typically don't perform that well, but you're pushing its power along by making it deployable from the YV666. You're giving him an aggressive build, proton rockets. I can understand what's going on there. Torquil Marks can duck down the initiative of your opponent's ships alongside Melody Crow. He can do it always in the front and out the side. Cad Bane gives him a free boost off the back of dropping that proton bomb. And Contraband Cybernetics means you can do full stops in multiple turns. Yeah, this is fun. I don't know if it's particularly powerful, but it's fun.
Being able to, drop the proton bomb, boost away.
Just bear in mind, if you're watching Kevin, Torquil is only 2 points cheaper than Palob Godali. Palob is rocking it right now, and just like a one-off build with Moldy Crow, without anything else, like Palob is really legit. And as a more dedicated control platform that can take away green tokens from your opponent, might be better and more applicable in different situations than Torquil. Not that Torquil's bad or anything. I like the idea of bombing and Cad Bane and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes simplicity is key. And that I look at these two sort of pilots and what they're trying to do. They're really trying to do the same thing, but Palob, it might just be a bit more focused. That's why I want to bring him up here.
And also, if you do that, losing Cad Bane and the proton bombs, it then gives you more points for a bid. Yeah,
you can do more with Kato if you want. You can turn Kato into Endru Salak. If you want to do like a Nadru Salak with Lone Wolf build, so he can deploy out of the Houndstooth. And then you have like a ship that can sort of fight into the late game. There's options here. There's options. A lot of fun though. I think the conversation about Moralo is going to be long-winded and janky for years to come. Let's move on. We have a few lists from our commenters on YouTube. This one by Rookie Wookie.
This one is another Moralo Eval build, with Lando Calrissian and L337 on the escape craft.
Moralo has Marksmanship, Perceptive Copilot, Forlom, Chewbacca, and Inertial Dampeners.
Lando Calrissian has Marksmanship, 000 BT1, Engine Upgrade, and Lando's Millennium Falcon.
L337 has a shield upgrade and the Informant. And just before we talk about Moralo here, I do want to quickly bring up the Falcon. The Falcon is another ship I want to make a video on real soon. And there is a lot to talk about this. I'm a little bit disappointed with the way it's performing at the moment. I think the pilot abilities rely way too much on synergy. And the issue here is you have Lando with 000. If you don't get ships in range 1, you're not getting value out of 000. You're not getting value out of that title. And it really does hurt the platform. I like the way you've built it out. Just be aware of those issues. It relies a little bit too much on synergy, and that is a problem for the ship. However, we have L337 alongside with it. And with that combination, you can take the shields off Lando first and have those shields on the escape craft. So you still have shields, but you are unshielded. To get more blue maneuvers, marksmanship, engine upgrades, then goes up a little bit more in value. Just be aware of the problem with relying too much on synergy. I spoke about this in a video just recently, and it's something to definitely think about. Having said, when it all goes off, you're punching like an absolute brick and doing all this damage. I really do want to make the Falcon work, but those are my issues with it right now. Now, back to Moralo. Once again, we have Perceptive Copilot and Chewbacca. I'm less convinced about this build in this list because we don't really have any other great use for those extra focus tokens. The previous one had Kato, this one doesn't really, Lando can't really do much with those tokens.
No.
What I would like to see, maybe if you're thinking about Perceptive Copilot and Chewbacca, is maybe the Lando crew card, who can spend the extra tokens to get 2 rerolls on offense or defense.
Yeah, that's a good way to go about it.
Which is relevant if you're at range 3 or defending through a rock and all that kind of stuff. It will come up every now and then. As I said, I don't think 2 focus tokens is a bad thing. And in terms of like dedicated synergies, that's not such a bad thing because you get value out of it as a fail case. In fact, this is a good example of what I'm talking about with synergy. The fail case with Lando Pilot with 000 is a heavily reduced value out of your title. You don't get the extra red dice and no value out of your crew. That's really crippling.
Yeah.
That's why when I'm talking about the Falcon. But when I'm talking about Perceptive Copilot and Chewbacca, you still have 2 focus tokens. Sure, and there's a good chance you'll get value out of Chewbacca relatively consistently.
Yeah.
It's not too niche and hard to imagine this stuff going off. That's why I'm like, okay, I can sort of forgive that kind of stuff. Apart from that, Fulham's just a great value card. You can punch a lot harder with everything with Perceptive Copilot. You're likely to get more attack value with those focus tokens. Marksmanship, it's hard. It's hard on a YV666 to get stuff in your bullseye firing arc.
Maybe trick shot?
I think definitely trick shot, Justin. We've spoken about trick shot. We love trick shot on this channel.
Yeah.
1 more red dice for something that happens incidentally, like once, twice a game anyway, is a great value thing. Marksmanship you want on dedicated jousters. I don't think Moralo. Maybe there's an argument to have it on Bosk. We'll talk about that in a tick.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Forlom inertial dampen, there's just a bit of flexibility here. I would think about changing the Perceptive Copilot Chewbacca package. Just something that relies a bit more consistency, a bit more value. We can think about things like L3 in the crew slot rather than L3 in that escape craft if we have a different like combination of pilots. You could think about Zuckuss. No, Zuckuss has a nice bit of power alongside Forlom. Now, I know Zuckuss isn't as powerful as he used to be. You can't do it while you're stressed. Maybe that's not so ideal on this platform. But still, as a one-off shot, it has a lot of power. People gravitated away from the Forlom Zuckuss combination first edition after the nerf. Remember, basically everything got a bit of a nerf right now. Dice are less consistent, so maybe Forlom and Zuckuss is something worth talking about in the YV again.
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe Forlom, Zuckuss, and Perceptive Copilot. Maybe that's something worth thinking about. Yeah, that's something worth thinking about for sure. I don't know if that's going to be crazy or anything, but I like consistent value cards. I like really strong value engines when we have 3 crew slots. Something that's going to help you adapt to different situations. When we're sort of leaning so hard into synergistic things like Perceptive Copilot and Chewbacca, we're really relying on certain situations to come up frequently. And I don't think it's terrible, but I just think we can get a bit more value out of these slots.
Yeah.
For sure. Let us move along to this next list by Daniel Rossa. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name.
It has Latsurazi on the YV666, Dace Bonearm, and Nadru Shalak.
Indeed. Latsurazi is a pilot that can hand out tractor tokens at range 0 to 1 in exchange for a target lock, and this is very interesting. She used to just make a ship roll 1 less dice for that entire turn because she was designed before tractor tokens were the thing. There's a bit more upside here because she can now tractor things onto rocks or behind rocks and move small ships, which is cool, I suppose. It's still a pilot that needs a lot of a build around. She now has a talent, which is relevant. Named pilots without talents was very crippling back in first edition. Not such a big deal in second edition, but still relevant. Yes, it's a pilot that needs a build around. Unlike Moralo and Bosk. Bosk to a less extent. Lats absolutely needs one. She has Intimidation, Tractor Beam, Cluster Missiles, Ketsu Onyo, Kira, Forlom, Feedback Array, and Static Discharge Vanes.
Dace Bonearm has Marksmanship, L337, Seismic Charges, Feedback Array, Static Discharge Vanes, and Moldy Crow title.
Nadru Salak has Predator and Ion Missiles, a pretty standard Nadru build. More red dice, all pretty straightforward. A nice little value ship to have while you have these controllers flying around and trying to control what your opponent's doing. So Static Discharge Vanes on both of these platforms is an interesting choice. If you would gain an ion or jam token, if you're not stressed, you may choose a ship at range 0 to 1. If you do, gain a stress token and transfer that token to that ship. Okay. So you can shirk off your ion tokens, give them to your opponent, and then double ionize them with Dace Bonearm. Sorry, triple ionize them, I should say. Which is not irrelevant. Alongside Lats giving them track tokens, there's a lot of potential control here. So that alongside feedback array as well means you can damage your opponent's ship if you ram into them. It does turn off Lats's ability because she only works at range 1. Having said that, the cool thing about this is if you're trying to ram into your opponent's ship, having things that work at range 1 is good too, because you won't always quite get there. So I don't mind that one little bit, actually.
Yeah. And she also does have intimidation as well, so...
Yeah, for sure. I like synergy that sort of hedges just a little bit in some situations.
Yeah.
So things that work at range 0 and things that work at range 1 actually do synergize quite well together for that reason.
Yeah.
I do quite like that. Yeah, intimidation and tractor beam for even more tractoring. If you catch a ship in range 1 inside your firing arc, which is very easy when it's 180 degrees, you can dump down a lot of tractor. Ketsu Onyo, a very synergistic choice here. Now, again, you have to be careful with synergistic choices because if the ability doesn't go off, then you get no value out of it. So be careful there. However, you've pushed it as far as you can, so I think this is a stronger move in that scenario. Ketsu just means if you like tractor, double tractor, whatever, they don't remove the end of turn. That's really, really powerful if you get it to work.
I'm not sure about Kira, though.
No, I'm not sure about Kira either. The issue with Kira is you have to perform locks on obstacles, and you have to lock your opponent's ship to get Lats's ability to work. So I don't think that's really what you want to be doing. I know, yes, there's fail cases where you might want to lock a rock. If you can't get this ability to work, you have that one. But they're fighting with each other. I feel like Lats's ability is so synergistic, especially with Tractor Beam and Ketsu Onyo, you don't want to spend any time ignoring it. You want to dump your actions into that ability, lock your opponent's ships. And that's where Kira sort of falls down in my eyes. She's not a bad card. I feel like there are plenty of builds that will just take her because she's decent. Doesn't just have to go on the Millennium Falcon. I think there is going to be some kind of build that makes use out of this. Anything that can like power out target locks. This is not that build though. I think we're probably looking at something like Zuckuss if we can make it fit. If you can track your opponent, make them roll less dice and then make them re-roll the one dice they have, for example. Could be a lot of fun. We could even think about Anka Plut. Now, I don't like Anka Plut as a card. I feel like taking damage in exchange for an action, in general, 99% of the time is not great. However, this is one of the best builds for that.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is you can do all this stuff. You could target lock. You can get a focus after you bump into a ship. You can get a target lock after you bump into a ship, helping unlock all these abilities. I like that. I like a lot what's going on with Anka Plut here. And you already have stuff that's damaging the ship, so maybe Anka and feedback array is a bit too much. I'm just looking at the synergy, Daniel, that you've put into this list, and I'm saying, okay, well, let's do you one better. Let's give you a bit more value so you can push, and get all these things working. You have to get your target locks off. So maybe Anka over Kira is a good synergistic choice that'll help push this build along. Dace Bonearm is a pilot I would love to see work well. I like the adjustment of his ability into second edition. It's difficult to sort of quantify. What they've done here, they've actually made him cheaper than Caleb Kodali, which is a good thing. He's Initiative 4. I like that a lot. I really, really want great, consistent ways to iron your opponent to really justify taking him. Marksmanship. It's an interesting choice on the Hawk with the Multi-Crow title. It's not terrible, but I think we can agree... Trick shot. Absolutely. When you have a turreted ship, you're going to get value out of trick shot a little bit more consistently. I like trick shot too much. I think marksmanship at one point and trick shot at one point it doesn't really work in terms of what's going on here. If you have synergy with like Bosk's ability or something like that, marksmanship gets a little bit better. But trick shot for 1 point is a better value card. So that's what I'd go for sure. I'd love to see Dace Bonearm doing well. This is a list that out of everything, is probably going to have the best option. You could think about ion cannon turret on Latsrazi, but then you don't have the points for that. Yeah. Maybe in exchange for Kira, you could sort of switch that around.
Oh, yeah.
And Nadrusalark is a good value ship with ion missiles is going to help out Dace Bonarm, so that's really cool. I think ion missiles is just good on Nadrusalark regardless. Gets an extra dice on his primary attacks, not his secondary attacks, but if he has to use an ion missile, maybe if he's within range 1 to 2 of his friendlies, that's when he can use the ion missile.
Yeah.
That's not so bad, but when he gets out of range 1 to 2, Predator, getting rerolls on those attacks is going to be very, very nice. I'd love to be able to fit Lone Wolf in here, but you've got no spare points.
No.
Again, think about some of those flex things. Another flex slot you could have here is Predator as opposed to Lone Wolf on Nadrusalark. Rerolls on offense or defense, having that flexibility is a good thing. Especially on him. He's not quite an ace, but he's kind of creeping towards that territory.
Yeah.
And on aces, you want flexibility more than anything else. So, cool idea. Nice idea for a list, Daniel. Lots of really interesting synergies going on there.
Yeah, very much so.
Let's go on to one last list. Sorry, I'm doing one less list than I usually do, but we want to talk about these quite a lot. So, I did that on purpose. Bosk. Bosk, the only sort of meta pilot from first edition, so definitely worth having a conversation about. Alongside IG-88B here.
Yeah, Bosk has marksmanship, tractor beam, cluster missiles, IG-88D, Jabba the Hutt, contraband cybernetics, and munitions failsafe.
IG-88B also has marksmanship, as well as fire control systems, heavy laser cannon, ion cannon, proton bombs, contraband cybernetics, hull upgrade, and IG-2000. And Cluto Satari, thank you for submitting this. You submitted this saying you wanted to try and get more value out of Jabba the Hutt. Jabba the Hutt, I want him to work. Interesting story. When Jabba was first revealed, that was when I was going to make the very first video on this channel.
Yeah.
I was busy that night, and then a few days later, the article on the most Guns for Hire came out, and that was my first video instead. Yeah. Jabba. You're so interesting, my friend.
Has had a change from...
He has indeed. He's got 4 charges, and he can replenish charges on illicits, which is better/worse.
Yeah.
The idea is, in this situation, when you only have 2 illicits, you can actually get more than just doubling them. But you can't double both of them at the same time. If both of these ships uses contraband cybernetics at the same time, you can't recharge both of them and then use them again the next turn.
Yeah.
However, that's pretty niche, and I don't think that's really significant downside. I do like the adjustment of Jabba the Hutt, and also it's worth saying that in second edition, he has a new platform because he can go on the Falcon now as well. When they revealed that, I was really, really hyped, but then I realised there's not a lot of illicits that really capitalise off him that well. Contraband cybernetics, I think, is one of the best ones for sure, but there is no more hotshot blaster thingamajig, the one-off turret that they used to have.
Oh, yeah.
There's no more glitter stim. That would be insane with this new build of Jabba. Maybe like Jabba on a Falcon alongside a fire spray with double glitter stims on both.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah, but no, we don't want glitter stims. We don't want things that make dice just a bit too consistent. No, like passive dice mods are very dangerous, so we're sort of not going for that in second edition so much. But I look at this, I think of 6 potential charges out of contraband cybernetics, and I'm pretty happy with that result.
Yeah.
Contraband cybernetics has gotten more powerful in second edition. You don't have to stress yourself anymore.
Also, IG-88B, just good build.
IG-88B. Interesting. I haven't seen a lot of IG lists floating around. There was a lot of early hype for it because it won the last Worlds before second edition came out.
Yeah.
B and C, I think they're still good. I mean, A and D got an upgrade, but the issue is their cannon options aren't as good. I think that's their only real downside. Oh, and no glitter stim again with IG. So, yeah, I can see why people have backed off them a bit. In this list, with contraband cybernetics, you can S-loop then boost, or S-loop then S-loop the next turn. You can do all that kind of stuff. Boss can full stop 2 turns in a row. He can full stop and target lock and cluster missiles in the same turn.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Now, the wording on contraband cybernetics, before you activate, excellent. It interacts with your initiative as well. So you can see exactly where everyone else has flown, especially with Bosk and cluster missiles. That's so good. you have the full stop out, you go, I might want to target lock these guys this turn, but I don't know if I'm going to get the shot.
Yeah.
Wait till he activates. All the crappy little like swarm guys come towards you. I'm like, okay, now I have the shot. I use Contraband Cybernetics.
Yeah.
And you don't have to decide until your opponent makes the decision for you. Yeah, this is cool. I love Contraband Cybernetics on these. I love Jabba the Hutt giving you more charges out of them. It's good. And I think the key thing for this to become successful is Bosk and IG-88B as pilots going to perform well consistently in tournaments.
Yeah.
I think they've got a good shot. Yes, marksmanship here, Justin. What do we think?
I think it's good because you've Bosk's ability to change the crit into 2 hits. Yeah.
For sure. It's almost like it's still just a random value card that'll occasionally give you a bit more value. Look, if this is the pilot that it goes on, then this is the pilot that it goes on, basically. I can't think of too many other large ships that's going to want marksmanship.
Yeah.
I still would make an argument for trick shot. I still think there's a debate here because of how consistently it triggers on a ship with a 180-degree arc. However, yes, when this goes off, and it'll go off a little bit less than trick shot, but when it goes off, it has more value.
Yeah.
So you got to think about that too. So it's synergy versus value. I think there's an argument for both for sure. Cluster missiles gives you an answer against swarms. Yeah, I dig that. IG-88D gives you IG-88B's refire ability, so you can tractor beam if you miss a shot.
Yep.
No complaints there. These guys are initiative matched, so boss can shoot first, track your opponent, then punch him as hard as possible with that heavy laser cannon. If you're lucky, they'll have a small ship and you'll barrel roll it into the range of that heavy laser cannon. A very nice 1-2 punch there. Also, IG-88D gives you 2 calculates whenever you calculate. It's really good. It's really good for 4 points. I've spoken about IG-88D being good enough without an IG flying next to him.
Yeah.
Especially on things like Boba Fett with lots of rerolls and that kind of stuff. Just a really high value card. I wouldn't be surprised if he went up to like 5-6 points in the first points adjustment.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how he performs meta-wise. Maybe these kind of like IG synergy lists just won't go off that much and they'll sort of fly under the radar. I think out of everything we've spoken about with these, we're talking mainly about janky pilot abilities, that kind of stuff. This feels like the most sort of tournament spike level list. Yeah. Not to say that it will be successful. I think it's in the conversation. When we're looking at synergies, especially between like IGs, it's like, okay, we have to make that consistent. I really like the IG synergies. I like how they work with any ship now. I like how we have IG-88A now. Yeah. I spoke about that in the first Hangar Bay video. And alongside this Bosk, I think it's interesting. Yeah. Is Jabba the Hutt good enough to make it into a meta list?
Are you going to try flying it?
I might at some stage. I'm practicing for Nats at the moment, so I don't have time for this kind of stuff. I want to try. I'm doing like Boba and Emon or Boba and Guri and all that kind of stuff, and just trying to get consistent results. But yeah, really cool list. Thank you for submitting those. Yeah, cheers for that, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Indeed. Now, just a quick announcement I'll make here. Next week is going to be released as per usual. But during the next couple of weeks after that, I'll actually be on holiday in Tokyo. And I will do my best to get these Hangar Bay videos out consistently over the next 3 weeks. Apologies if I can't. I'll make an announcement on Facebook and Discord for you guys that are on there, just to keep you guys up to date. But yeah, in the meantime, if you want to submit a list, if you're a patron, head over to the Discord and submit a list in the appropriate channel. If you're on YouTube, just copy a list in text form into a comment. The best thing you can do is to go into Yet Another Squad Builder, copy the text, and put the link right underneath that. Don't just post a link. It's very hard for me to organise that.
Yeah. But anyway, like and subscribe. Like us on Facebook. Like us on Twitter, like us on Reddit.
Last thing, please consider supporting the Patreon. Thank you so much to all our existing patrons. Without them, these videos would be not as good. We use the Patreon to decide what list archetypes we're talking about, discuss these and workshop these in a bit more detail, so we get a bit more preparation in for these videos. So thank you so much for that. Please consider supporting the Patreon, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.
Bye.